The Famous Five were a group of women from Alberta who were drawn together by their shared idealism for equality and power for women. Each of the Famous Five were true leaders in their own right. Nellie McClung served as a member of the Legislative Assembly of Alberta between 1921 and 1926. She actively campaigned for the rights of women, and in 1936 she became the first woman on the Board of Governors for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Emily Murphy, a police magistrate who served as president of the Canadian Women's Press Club and worked to establish several women's clubs in Canada. Her efforts resulted in the Dower Act being passed. Henrietta Edwards, a legal expert who founded and worked as conveyor of laws for the National Council of Women. She was also a member of the Alberta Government Advisory Committee on Health. Louise McKinney served as a member of the Legislative Assembly of Alberta and was the first woman to be elected to legislature in the British Empire. She also helped introduce several beneficial laws for immigrants. Irene Parleby served as a member of the Legislative Assembly of Alberta. She became the second woman in the British Empire to serve as a cabinet minister. During her years in public office, she supported 18 laws affecting the lives of women and children in a positive way. Separately, these five women worked hard and courageously in the face of the prejudices of the day, but together they formed an unstoppable force that changed the world for women and children in Canada and in all Commonwealth countries.
The story of the Famous Five and their challenge of the Persons case is a case study in transformational leadership. According to Section 24 of the British North American Act, and also the Canadian Constitution at this time, it is said that only qualified persons could be appointed to the Canadian Senate. But prior to 1929, women in Canada were not considered qualified persons. This law allowed for men to have complete governmental power and complete power in the Senate. This was based on historical precedent when the law was written.
This is an outrage. It's unacceptable that women are not considered people.
Emily Murphy was outraged and discovered a little-known provision in the Supreme Court of Canada Act that said any five individuals acting as a unit could petition the Supreme Court for an interpretation of any part of the Constitution. So, on August 27, 1927, she invited four of the brightest and most determined women activists she knew to Edmonton. The four other women being Nellie McClung, Louise McKinney, Henrietta Edwards, and Irene Parleby. All of these women have advocated for children and other women nationwide and have supported many women's rights and empowerment goals. Once the women arrived, they signed a letter petitioning the Supreme Court to look into the matter of whether the government could appoint a female senator. The matter quickly became known as the Persons case. It was debated on March 14, 1928, with the Supreme Court eventually ruling that women were not qualified persons. The Famous Five, however, continued to petition. They petitioned the Privy Council to rule on the matter. On October 18, 1929, a consensus was made, and women were now deemed as qualified persons and could be appointed to the Senate.
Without the perseverance and drive of these five women, the world would not be where it is today, in reference towards women's rights and positions in society. During their time together, they were able to accomplish a lot for the equality of women and men. Their hard work led to women being considered as people and give women the ability to vote. It may be hard to realize the impact these two accomplishments have in society, so it is easiest to picture it as any women that you have in your life, whether it be your mother, sister, or friend, not being able to voice their political opinion or to be even considered as a person, which by definition means a human being as distinguished from an animal or a thing. So up until 1929, women were not legally differentiable from animals or things. Women being declared as people have empowered many women for several decades and has labeled the Famous Five as trailblazers for future generations. Their work as a group set the foundation for women to receive equal treatment in society, leading to Crean Wilson being appointed to the Canadian Senate in 1930 and King Campbell becoming Canada's first female Prime Minister in 1993. Without women's different perspectives on all aspects of life, Canada would not be the great nation it is today. The Famous Five continue to inspire organizations such as the Canadian Bar Association to this day in defining the rights of individuals in the Canadian society.
To quote from Chief Justice of Canada Beverly McLachlin, "The Famous Five provide an enduring example of how the law can be employed as an instrument of social change. Their legacy has transformed the way we interpret and understand our constitutional rights and responsibilities." These women have been commemorated with several plaques and statues across Canada, for example in Canada's Senate, at Parliament Hill, and the Olympic Plaza in Calgary. In October 1996, the nonprofit Famous Five Foundation was created to continue to involve women in leadership roles throughout Canada.